Namaste. Today I saw a butterfly. Her blue speckled wings glistened in the sunlight. The magic of her metamorphosis danced around in the winds. She flew over the sagebrush and landed on red, sandy soil, resting a while, opening and closing her wings. A silent, rhythmic drumbeat, sending wave after wave of the knowledge she holds about naturally transforming. Today, I am following the path of the butterfly. Together we can join the dance of butterflies in the passionate pursuit of the becoming of all we are here to be, creating sacred space for transformation, sheltering, dissolving, dismantling what has been knitting fibers of connection, shaping new forms, reweaving the web of life within us, between us, and all around. When it is time, according to our inner knowing, our ancestors and lineages, and the wisdom living in the earth and the stars, we'll open the doorway, step through the threshold, warm our wings in the sun, and fly into the magic of our own metamorphosis, into a beautiful, loving world beyond our wildest dreams. This is an excerpt from Joanne Dodgson 2020. It's from my Present Wee Moon journal. So beautiful. And my candle just blew out while reading that. So welcome, good afternoon to all of you. Hello to Magdalena. And today I want to start with a reading. This is the third decan of Gemini, and we are in a very challenging time energetically, this transition from Gemini to Cancer season. And those of you that have done decan walks and are aware of the cards that are associated with this decan, this is a time where we can contemplate surrender in association with the 10 of air, the 10 of swords. This is also the decan where the Knight of Swords steps back and the Queen of Cups rises. The Queen of Cups rises as we prepare for Cancer season. And this may be a time where the Queen of Cups shows her shadow side and has challenges navigating this particular couple of weeks, 10 days or so. So the question I want to ask the cards today in reflection of our connection with this time, and also I want to acknowledge the present moon cycle, which figures greatly into readings. The moon, of course, is waning. We just had the full moon a few days ago, and the moon just transitioned this morning into Aquarius. So the moon is in an air sign as well. So the question I said, if I didn't already read this, was how do we learn to surrender? How? Hello, candle. Oh my goodness. Okay. Candle gone wild. How do we learn? How do we learn? How in this, and not just in general, but at this time, bringing in the energy of all that surrounds us geopolitically, personally, personally within our families and our workspace. How do we allow for this really important lesson to be fully present in our lives at this time? Hi, Carrie Ann. Welcome. I want to talk about some of the videos that I'm creating right now, but I do have this particular deck on the table, and I thought I would use this one as well as I will pull an oracle card again from Sacred Union Oracle for this reading. And I'm sure most of you know this deck. This is Lisa de St. Croix's tarot deck. And I'm also thinking too that part of this letting go is in allowing the shifting energy of the change of seasons as well too. Yeah. Hi, Carrie Ann. I am not doing personal readings today. This is a reading for the collective, and then I will be shifting into something else. All of my contacts are below, and you're welcome to book a personal reading with me. Thanks. So, how can we embrace this energy of letting go? And perhaps, like the butterfly in that passage that I read, opening to the summer season, opening to the wisdom of our hearts. And I also want to say our mothers, or perhaps the mother collective, the mother archetype, which is a strong force that begins to present in Cancer season. Okay. So we have a very powerful masculine archetype opening up this reading. And yet this is in lieu or in sight of all that we've been talking about the last few weeks, the relationship between fire and air. There's something pretty sweet that's going on here. This is incredible wisdom, the wisdom of the sage in the power of fire. You may see a window with light behind, you may see a planet, but there is almost a magician-like energy going on here, and we are empowered to create. Also, look here, we have twins here holding up this symbol of, oh my goodness, what is, I'm drawing a blank here, but this all-powerful symbol of, let's just call it possibilities for now. I'm also noticing there is a darker side and a lighter side. And one of the things that I have learned is that the wearing of black robes and the wearing of black in general, it is something that has been a part of my awareness for some time, because I began a no black sadhana in about 2012. And this was brought forward when I attended a yoga retreat. And at that yoga retreat, we were told no black, to wear no black. And that began to unfold, and I carried that forward for years as a personal thing. I do now have a few pieces of black in my wardrobe, but the idea of wearing black is that it absorbs everything, and that only beings of tremendous consciousness, the ability to transform energy, are able to carry that responsibility. And we tend to wear black to hide, to look slimmer, things like that. And black is, and so this really amplifies the energy of this sage for me. And sorry for jiggling the table here. All right, so the question is, how can we embrace the energy of surrender? And is there a message in that? More fire here. We have, looks like a bit of a ceremony going on, some sort of a celebration. We are passing and we are lighting candles from each other's candles, from the main candle. We have a leader, an officiant in the center here. This could represent a particular ceremony as well too. I look to this as summer, Six of Wands in Leo. Lots of Leo energy here. And then we have Two of Swords. Okay. All right, so let's go back. So question is, how in this third decan of Gemini, can we learn to, or how can we allow ourselves to let go a little bit? I'm also drawn to this face, looking towards this ceremony. And there is like a all-seeing eye kind of energy guiding. It's almost as if this goes in a circle. This all-seeing force, this great sage looks upon the ceremony, and there's a lot of energy that emanates from this Six of Wands. And the Two of Swords maybe sees all of this from within. It's kind of a cool vision. I feel like I'm in a bit of a bubble here, and a bit of a, like a snow globe, experiencing something deeply connected. Two of Swords feels really important here, and I wonder if this is about, we need to brighten up. Can you see the colors? My goodness, that is so... I'm in really weird light right now, so I apologize. This is an interesting combination of cards in response to this question. And I feel like the Two of Swords says, close your eyes, step back, look within. What is important will reveal itself when we look within. And the word surrender is really hard for a lot of people. I feel like another word that I use, the verb allow. That's one that's been really important to me. I want to acknowledge these comments that are coming through. The Fool card of the Piedmontese Tarot. I don't have that. I will look that up. Thank you for that, Caroline, and aloha to Jonathan, and Saskia Kalaspara to you, and welcome to Sarah. Namaste to all of you. So this idea of releasing, this idea of being more in the moment, to honor the position and the place of the number 10. And tens, these mutable signs, are places where it's almost like we amp up the courage to let go. And I feel that with this Six of Wands and the King of Wands, there's tremendous strength and support and history. It's like we are looking back, and I know this is not a Six of Cups, it's a Six of Wands, but it feels like a reflection. We're looking within to remember something that inspired us, that gave us strength, and maybe it's from that strength that indeed we are able to let go a little bit and to feel more courageous at this time where... And I feel like in a decan where Ten of Swords is the theme, really challenging things are going to be presenting themselves. And so if and when that happens, the advice here would be to take some time to be quiet, to retreat, to close your eyes and to breathe and to turn within, because the answer lies within and the support lies within. And sometimes, I'm thinking of a current challenge that I'm going through right now. And intuitively, that's exactly what I chose to do yesterday. Rather than reaching without, I chose to be quiet and to stay here and to be alone. And that's where I found my peace. And that can be really challenging, right? When we're expected to be out and participating and doing things. There's something quite poignant here about this intergenerational aspect as well of the of this painting, all of the generations connecting and participating in this six, the six of fire, the six of the heart space, fire in the heart. And this Archimedes figure, this King of Wands, just sort of holding space for this great transformation. Let me know. Let me know what arises for you in these cards in response to support through this rather challenging day, Can. Thanks, Carolyn. And welcome to Kristen as well, too. Namaste. Okay, let's pull a card from this deck. So each week I've been pulling a card from the Sacred Unity Tarot as a reflection of Gemini, the twins, relationships, reflection on relationships. And we've had some really interesting pulls. And today we're going to look at, so this card is called the Muse. What we love inspires creativity. And that's an interesting response in terms of these two Wands cards that I've shown here. This is Sappho and Erina. Born on the island of Lesbos, we write poetry, lyrical love poems sung to the lyre, ode to Aphrodite, Eros between women, a 300-line lament, teacher and student, poet and muse. Has anyone read the 300-line lament, ode to Aphrodite? And isn't that interesting that we have stepped into the energy of the Queen of Cups, and often the Queen of Cups, and actually I think in this deck is Aphrodite. Oh, this is, wow. Let me find the card for you. I'm pretty sure it is Aphrodite. If not, there is another card in this deck with a female figure and a shell and an ocean. Hello, Perry. Long time no see. Welcome. Let me see if I can find it. I'm only going to go through once, and if I don't see it, and of course it will be the last card. Oh, no, it's not. Well, just a second. I have the card right here. It makes me really happy that it's this card. It's one of my favorite cards in the deck because I feel like it's kind of me. It's the Page of Cups. Maybe I was thinking of, okay, no sort of Aphrodite card in this deck, but oh well. This is the Queen of Cups in this deck. And there are some lovely rivers in Hana on Maui. And when you walk through the bamboo forest, there's quite a few hiking trails there. There are also places where you can stop and have a swim. And there are some waterfalls you can jump down, some you can slide down. And I have a very joyful photo of myself on such a place. And when I remember that photo and I see this card, it just makes me really happy. So yeah, so take from this reading what you will, and I want to wish you or suggest that through this decan of Gemini, that contemplation of surrender and allowing challenging experiences to move through you rather than fighting against them is can be really difficult, but it usually is a better way. Yeah. Okay. So, where are we here with all of this? We are not insignificantly going to look at the 9, the 10, and the Page of Swords in the 3 decks that we have been working with. And I just think it's really kind of funny that 10 of Arrows is one of our cards for today. But we're going to start with the 9 of Feathers, the 9 of Swords, and the 9 of Arrows. So let me get our 3 decks all lined up here. And if you're just new to this discussion, this has been going on for some weeks, and we've been looking at the wands and the swords from the 3 decks on the table. They are linked below, left to right. Now they are Greenwood Tarot, Margaret Peterson, and the Mythologia Fennica Tarot. This discussion began with seeking a deeper awareness of the connection between air and fire, and why in many decks it seems that the dance, the story, the connections between air and fire are so, in the tarot, it's just really hard to put it into neat little boxes. And I find that some tarot decks really attempt to do that. They want to put everything into neat little boxes. But the more I study tarot, the more I'm beginning to see how this web, this mandala of tarot is so very, inextricable. These cards are inextricably linked, particularly the association between swords and wands. So in the Mythologia Fennica, we're looking at the white deer, and I meant to go get my Stephen Farmer book, but I didn't get to that. A couple of things here. So I shared with you the link for the Mythologia Fennica, and hello to Clevis. I saw that she's here as well. Clevis let me know about a workshop for the Mythologia Fennica, and I delayed in registering. It never occurred to me that an online class would have such limited registration. And when I went to register, I noticed that there was a maximum of 12 allowed, so I didn't go to the workshop. So Clevis, if you have any feedback on that workshop, that would be wonderful. However, I feel that really going slowly with a Mythologia Fennica has been very helpful for me because of the new vocabulary. And this is the first time I have really spent any time with Finnish folklore. So as I see words repeating and themes repeating, it starts to, squeaky chair, register in this little brain of mine. Now, the white deer, this particular page, how do I say that? Like if I was reviewing this deck, I would say that it's amazing. It's wonderful. I love all the stories that are emerging and these new connections that are being built. It is greatly apparent that this book is written in translation, and the translation is often awkward. The writing style is disjointed and incomplete. And what I mean by that is that the writer, Susanna Salo, attempts to put a lot of associations and content into a very short 2 pages for each card. So that if I were to do a deeper dive into this deck, that I would need supplemental material because there is not enough in this book. Hello, Rose. Welcome. However, I've been doing my best to try to extricate meaning, to build association, and to find links among all of these decks. Yeah. So let's begin. So this sacred deer. The magical white deer is a mythical creature that is capable of traveling between two worlds. It leads to new paths towards wondrous adventures and opens doors to new levels of consciousness. One of the things Susanna writes about, thank you, Clevis. One of the things that Susanna writes about is the relationship between the mythical white deer or the mythical deer and shamanic practices. So the shaman in many cultures takes on the energy of the deer and is able to travel and journey great distances as an animal. In others cultures, you might see the bear here. Often the bear is the one that is the energy that the shaman takes on. And so with the Nine of Swords and this connection to journeying, and I'm sure many of you have done shamanic journeying. This version. Okay. Good to know. I would love to get my hands on it. With this connection to journeying, there is a link that might bring meaning to all of you in terms of the Nine of Swords in general. If you have been studying with me, and many of you have been listening to me for years, and I thank you for that. This card here, I feel, in many decks, and the subsequent one, the Ten of Swords, is grossly misunderstood. So let me build the layers of that and keep an eye on the energy here as well as the energy in the Wildwood Tarot. Nines hold sacred energy. They are a 333. So this certainly connects to this ability of the white deer to travel between worlds. When we are deep in dream, and here it appears we have awoken from a dream, we are in this realm. And if we have awoken from a nightmare, we are in a powerful place of potential transformation. So in this sacred space of the nines, also in this place of, numerologically, this place of completion and fullness and ripeness, we are ripe and rich for the possibility of great transformation. And when I was reading about the shaman here and thinking about how at least and shamanic journeying in general, the powerful energy that moves through us as we journey from world to world, whether we are journeying to the lower world or the upper world. Often at the beginning of these journeys, we will find a spirit animal to guide us. The deer certainly has been one that has shown up for me many a time, as is the wolf. And with the Nine of Swords, I feel there is so much courage that is required here, because the potential for spiritual transformation is right there. You are at this place where the the veil is so thin and you are so close to seeing through the illusion. But what tends to happen is we get drowned in a fearful sight or an overwhelming emotion, and we don't stay long enough to realize what is awakening within us. The sacred, the divine, your divine consciousness is delivering a major message here. And in the tarot, all of the nines ask us to reflect. They all ask us to look back and to be in this space, this sacred space of the nine, in the energy of the element. And the element here is one that is very complex. It is the energy of the mind. It is the energy of the breath. It is the energy of the heart space. It is the power of knowledge and the peace of wisdom. And so to see the sacred deer here supporting us and helping us to journey through the most challenging of times, helping us to awaken and transform, is a really powerful card. And when I look at what's going on here with 9 of arrows, if you've worked with the suit of arrows and you've worked with this, if you worked with the suit of arrows on this deck or the suit of arrows in the Wildwood Tarot, there's a lot of discombobulation, a lot of confusion that arises in the suit of arrows. And here we are at the 9, where things begin to come together. And it's through this practice, through this dedication, through coming back again and again. You know, you just keep coming back to the mat. In yoga terms, you just come to the mat, keep coming back. There's this Sanskrit term, abhyas, A-B-H-Y-A-S-A. And this is a very important principle in yoga, is that you just keep showing up. The most important thing is to show up. Just be there. And this dedication is really important. And when we react to frightful experiences, rather than allow those experiences to move through us to try to understand them, it becomes, we don't get where we need to get. Now, a little bit later on, I'm going to talk about the Page of Swords, who in this deck is the Raven. And in the when we looked at the suit of wands, the Page of Wands was the eagle. And there's a bit of a connection here that it has to do with great sight and allowing great sight to happen. Sometimes I feel like this is that place. You can use his name's not Nemo. What is his name? Oh my goodness. The red pill, blue pill. His name is Nemo, I think it is, in the Matrix. It's that place where we have to decide if we're ready to see. Oh, Neo. That's right. Thank you. Neo. It's that place. When I did a shamanic journey in Peru with San Pedro, it was quite difficult. The purging, physical and spiritual, were a trial. So while you probably weren't in a bed with a beautiful comforter atop you, it is. And if this is amplified with the use of medicinals such as ayahuasca, it can be completely overwhelming. And whatever place you are in this 9 of Swords experience, it is this purging, this letting go is preparing and cleaning. It is cleansing you for it makes space for you to be able to see and to understand. So I think this all sort of is incredibly beautiful. And there's a couple of words in the Margaret Peterson that also speak to this. And all of these guidebooks, it's a good thing I know these guidebooks quite well when they all have the suits in different order. She says, walk towards that which you reject and fear. Walk towards that which you reject and fear. Make a conscious decision and dive deep into your own being. If we keep avoiding stuff, then we will never understand. So this is a pretty potent card that often gets dusted over. The shaman that assumes the form of the deer is able to take long journeys on the spiritual level. The white deer refers to a spiritual journey, which the deer will act as a guide. The goal of the journey is spiritual learning from experiences and the plentiful reward that waits after them. The deer is connected to the ability to operate on two different levels, physical and spiritual. These levels are not contradictory towards each other, but support one another. You may make use of your spiritual capacity when faced with the boundaries of the physical world. And I think this is so important. You may make use of your spiritual capacity when faced with boundaries of the physical world. For those of you that are doing this work and have been in this, and some of you may have been doing this for weeks, and some of you may have been doing this for decades. And the longer you do this, the more you know that coming back to your practices, coming back to your spirit, your spiritual way of being is only going to help, right? I've shared with you many a story about Shivani, one of my important teachers, and she shared this story, and she also responded to me this way, where I would pick up the phone and call her and start crying and going on and on and on about what was happening in my life. And she would simply say, "Are you doing your practices?" Rhetorical question, because obviously I'm not doing my practices if my life is exploding. Because when you are doing your practices and when you are incorporating the spiritual into this physical space, life is so much easier. So, she asks that question and then hangs up the phone. Call me back when you're doing your practices. That sort of message. And thank you, Perry, for all these supporting, wonderful tidbits you're giving us here. This is wonderful. Thank you. And yes, Saskia. So this may come back in the next relationship. This might come back in the next decade. This might be something that is rolled around again and again and again for you. So let's also reflect on this concept of Yod He Vav He, wands, cups, swords, pentacles. This is the third 9. This is the third kick at the can for 9. And it is a really difficult 9, and you've been at 9 before. And so here it's like Spirit is there's so much invitation here, so much invitation here, and I hope that the next time you find yourself in this place, you can stay one moment longer. And there is a beautiful Karen Blixen quote on this as well, too. And this has to do with some of great challenges that she faced when she was living in Africa. Okay. All right. So what happens here? We journey. Things begin to reveal themselves, and then we find ourselves in the place of the Ten of Swords. And this was the inspiration for the reading today, because this is the Decan where we are at this time. And one of my tarot pet peeves is the overly simplistic interpretations of this card. If this is a death card of sorts, I mean, all tens in a way symbolize the change of seasons, the seasons of life. It is the turning of the wheel. It is the turning of the wheel of air. It is the turning of the wheel of perspectives, the turning of the wheel of, if you are working with the element of air in the heart space, excuse me. Oh my goodness. Energy moving through me. So this 10 of air moves. It moves the mind. It challenges the mind. Perhaps it moves us from knowledge to wisdom. And there's this suggestion that in order to receive the lesson, we must surrender. We must let go. All right, so let's begin with Mythologia, Fennica. Our future depends on our mindful steps right now with joyous celebration and creativity, through flexibility and gratitude, with generosity of heart and mind. Inspired Perry. All right, so the Court of Serpents. And also, I draw your attention to an object in the mouth of the snake. Now, you're all aware, interesting how this kind of looks like snakes and snake heads as well, too. The myth here is that the object, or any object that has been in the mouth of a serpent, becomes a magical object. There is so much mythology around snakes and serpents of various sizes and kinds, those that move upon the earth and within the belly of the earth, those that move within the waters upon the earth. The myths of serpents is probably one of the greatest body of mythology. Here, Susanna Sala writes that this is a card, clarification of things, resolving differences and seceding from the egotistical world. So that makes sense, that we must surrender so that we can release our clinging to the ego. The tighter we hold on to the ego, the lesser the chances of finding peace and knowing transformation. This also can be applied through the energy of the chakras. So a Manipura chakra, a solar plexus chakra that is not healing, will be clinging tightly, holding on tightly. And in order to ascend to the heart space, It is absolutely necessary to let go, to find ease, to find peace, and to stop struggling. Stop struggling with everything. Back to Susanna Sallow. A great white serpent carries the magical court stone of serpents in its mouth. The crown it has on its head emphasizes its role as king of the snakes and the keeper of wisdom, and the court stone could be regarded as the philosopher's stone. Other snakes have sensed the summon and have gathered to hold court and find out different aspects of truth. I'm going to just go on here and read a little bit more. Snakes are closely related to the underworld of Tuonela, that is, to the powers below. On the way to Manala was a gigantic 100-eyed serpent that threatened to devour all who came close, and the gates and houses of Manala were absolutely awash with smaller snakes. All the obstacles on the way to Manala, that is, Pojola, were rituals of inner cleansing and had to be performed if one wished to get through them. And the snake symbolized truth and honesty towards oneself. Rituals of inner cleansing. That's so interesting if you think about the Six of Wands in the reading earlier. The mistress of Pojola makes the smith Ilmarinen to plow the fields of adders when he asks her daughter to be his wife. The field represents the mind, and the adders the negative thoughts, attitudes, and fears that one must get rid of. Ilmarinen is successful because the maid of Pojola advises him to forge a golden plow and protective gear. The maid symbolizes wisdom and the fact that a person must unite with the opposite halves of his or her own person to succeed in challenges and matters of growth. Oh, Susanna, I want to thank you so much for saying this. Because here we build in connection with the Ten of Swords as the in its connection to Gemini and the lovers. Just let me read this again. The maid symbolizes wisdom and the fact that a person must unite the opposing halves of his or her own person to succeed in challenges and matters of growth. So the reason for engaging in relationship is to expand and to understand and to improve our wholeness, perhaps to know our wholeness. The plowing also symbolizes the toiling that gives promise of the coming reward of plentiful harvest. It also represents sound judgment. Honesty towards oneself and others is the only way to prevent oneself from being crushed by the snake wheel. Honesty, to have courage, to admit when being wrong if one has made a mistake. And so this notion of surrender is about finding peace within ourselves and truth within ourselves. The circle that is portrayed in the Greenwood Tarot is this circle of wisdom that is passed from elder to child. This intergenerational connection of knowledge, this body of knowledge that is passed down, perhaps the ability to receive that knowledge. Because I'm sure we all know those who are closed to receiving the knowledge of the elders. There's a bit of a and here's the ego coming back in, right? That when a younger generation believes that they know it all and their way is the best way. And it's not till many years later that the softening happens and they begin to digest and understand some of these greater teachings. Of course, with the youngest generation, it's the youngest decade of life. It's a lot easier. So how does this all weave together? How does this all weave together? Let's read Margaret Peterson, and then I'll do my best to do that. Also, I don't want to forget about the initial question of this inquiry, and where is the fire in these air cards? Because we found air in all of the fire cards. 10 of Feathers. You have experienced fear and pain without being destroyed. You have experienced yourself as part of the film and as part of the screen. The choice is yours. You can always leave the realm of your nightmares, put a stop to old patterns of thought by gaining mental clarity and applying the power of discernment. She begins this one by saying the shadowy thoughts have come to rest. I remember Clevis fondly. We talked a lot about the decanic cards of Gemini when we did Tarot Foundations 2, and Clevis did Tarot Foundations 2 twice. A most dedicated student of Sadhana. And Clevis, if you don't know her, is loves the sciences and has this wonderful ability to bring scientific analysis to many tarot interpretations. And so with Clevis, we began to explore these cards in relation to the concept of noise and the definition of noise and the lessons of noise in terms of these very loud swords cards. It may be easier to look at this in terms of certain decks where bells are used in lieu of swords. But the idea of noise is where the frequency is not tuned in. It's like listening to a radio where you are, just a little point off the frequency. And I know some of you who are clairaudient have experienced this many times, where you feel like you can't quite turn that tuning dial. You know that if you could turn that tuning dial, the receiving of the message would be so much easier. The noise in the 8 of Swords, the 9 of Swords, the 10 of Swords, it begins to reduce in the 10 of Swords. We start to see space between the swords. We're able to discern a bit of peace and a bit of clarity between the thoughts. If you've sat down to meditate, you know how challenging this can be. Even if you are an experienced meditator, there are certain things that we need to do to prepare for meditation. Unless you're really experienced, it's hard just to sit down and drop into it. And to calm the breath, to calm the physical body, so that the mind can create space. we start to tune in, and we begin to perceive more clearly and to receive, right? It's like our transmitter is working a little better. So rather than perceiving all of this noise, all of this interference as pain and suffering, we begin to see more clearly and to see a bigger picture. And we begin to find a little wisdom in the experience. Jackie, hello, asks a very interesting question. And if you will allow me to digress for a moment here, I have asked this question many times. Many times. I live with tinnitus of varying degrees, sometimes quite noisy, and other times it's not perceptible, but most of the time it is. And it really began to escalate around the time I amplified 12 years ago, this magic number. Well, I say 12 years ago, 2012 was the magic year that I began to amplify all of my practices. Goodbye, Kristen. Have a lovely day. And so I reached out to Shivani and I began some yogic practices to manage my tinnitus or tinnitus. Did them faithfully. And throughout the years, I have seen ear, nose, and throat specialists. I have had brain scans, all kinds of things. And I don't have an answer to your question, but I believe, Jackie, that it is partly connected. It is partly connected, and that I would love to say that one day I could shift my tuner just a little bit and the tinnitus would disappear and I would hear more clearly. Maybe there would be silence. Maybe it would be an even greater receiving of messages, which of course, in that regard, maybe the tinnitus is a blessing in disguise, because then I'm not completely inundated with constant messages. Do you remember that Jim Carrey movie where he became God and started to receive all of the messages and was so overwhelmed with so inundated with all of the messages coming through and didn't know how to deal with all of that? I think we have to remember that the frequency with which we turn on and turn off and tune in and tune out of sacred messages and sound and our connection with the divine, it's probably not advisable that we're always tuned in, because it is very challenging to navigate this material world and to keep our feet on the ground and to be grounded if we are always at a frequency that encourages levitation. Yeah, it's such a good question. It's such a good question. Yeah. And this is wonderful advice, Perry. Drop into space, or drop into a space of receptive surrendering and keep allowing the breath to be the guide. Yeah. Okay. Well, I was going to do the Page of Swords today, but I would like to not rush through that And so next week, I'm going to look at the Page of Swords and the Page of Fire. And then then we'll look at the other court cards as well. And then that'll be a wrap for Wands and Swords. Now, next week is after solstice. So we will be in a new sign next week. We'll be in Cancer. And wow. So this is kind of, I suppose, a wrap up of Gemini season. Yeah. So I hope these last days of Gemini season, we can all maybe tune into some inner space, find some silence, and learn to just breathe, just be. I want to send you all love and light, and encourage you to trust in the process. Thank you for being here. See you next Saturday. Namaste.